Hey, what an awesome fall day.
It is. It is. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful time to
What
be
a
alive.
beautiful
It's time to be alive.
morning. Isn't that the song?
That song "Beautiful" by James Blunt.
That's a different one.
Yeah.
Um,
Are we recording right now already?
yeah, we're live, but it doesn't mean we can't just shoot
Yeah.
the
That was
shit.
that was
Come on now. Come on.
okay. Let's
You-
get it opened up because I'm vibing right now.
I know you are now, but real quick, I just want to quiz you. Do you know when summer officially ends?
September 24th.
I think it's September 22nd.
It
That's
is.
what I remember.
I know it's around there because it's right around Blake's birthday.
Okay. You're probably right. I'm probably wrong, but I didn't think it was that late, to be honest.
Yeah, but did you notice actually like it's weird. This was the first year that I feel like when summer ended, the weather actually changed that quickly.
That's just a coincidence.
Yeah, but it's weird though. Like I know it's a coincidence, but it went from last Wednesday was 95 degrees,
Yeah.
and now we're like mid to high 60s.
But it was also not 95 degrees in like late
August.
I mean, it was every now and then, but yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I thought you were going to say it was the first time that you've recognized that with each passing day now, we're starting to lose more and more daylight, which sucks too.
And we're getting older with each passing
And
day.
that too. And we're just getting wiser and more powerful.
Dude, do you
as
think
an unscripted team?
Do you think daylight savings is going to go away? Do you think they're going to cancel
I
that?
think we talked about this. I think so. I think it should.
Do you know why they started that?
Like farming, right?
Yeah. We did talk about that.
Yeah.
That's just super interesting.
Yeah.
I started watching Yellowstone, so like you might start hearing me talk like this.
All right.
Yeah.
You kind of already talk a little bit like
Dude,
that.
I got a little bit of
twang.
little twang. Let me just sip my Budweiser Zero and stop talking.
Well, are you opening us up or is it me?
Am I opening us up?
Well,
Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Exchanges. Happy to be back in the studio, Hayden. Happy to be back. Feeling like just on a whole nother level today. How are you feeling today?
I'm ready to run through a wall.
Dude, get me jacked up.
I'm ready to go. I stay calm, but the thing is, calm to someone else might not necessarily be calm to me.
You got that right, man. You got that right. You know what? Something that I wanted to dive into today that I was thinking about earlier is kind of centered around like Instagram. And specifically, this came to mind.
Are you trying to be an Instagram influencer?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of why it came to mind. Yeah, it's part of we're trying to grow the brand and get the audience and continue to get engagement from people. So in this day and age, like you've got to be on Instagram, LinkedIn, and you don't have to be on LinkedIn, but Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, which we're not good at yet, and I keep planning to do. Facebook, you have to get out there and like be forward facing. And one of these things I saw, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more for me, but there's a lot of people that buy Instagram accounts. And I know Instagram's like completely against that, but is that still happening? Like, are people still buying accounts? And then there's another piece of that that's really annoying too, as we're getting into the weeds with Instagram and using it more, is the amount of spam accounts. Like I feel like there's so many people that like so many fake accounts that will like some of our stuff or like a video I posted. They'll be like, I got one that's like up to like, it's not that many, 500 likes, but it was like a 2-second video of Ava playing volleyball. I didn't post it to like get anybody, but it's got like 8,000 views and it's still climbing. But almost every person that like likes it, it's just like, it feels like it's like a bot or something at this point.
So that's quite the topic to unpack, and I'll slowly unpack it or try to myself, and then we can certainly dive into the details a little bit further. I would say that personally, I think there's nothing wrong with starting an Instagram account or a social profile, whether it's on TikTok, and amassing a whole bunch of a following. Now, hopefully this following is like actual users and not bots, and then selling it to someone that's interested. Like that is, again, as we've talked about this time and time again on our show, capitalism. Like that's just, there should be nothing illegal about that in my mind.
Right.
Where it would be illegal is if Hayden started, a social media profile that's got 100,000 followers. I'm doing air quotes.
All right.
And 95,000 of them are fake. And I sell it to Cole for $10,000 and I'm ripping you off. That would be illegal because I'm selling a faulty product or a faulty service.
Right.
But there should be no restrictions in my mind of me willing to sell that to you if you're willing to pay whatever the price is. So as you called out, I think it's against Instagram's guidelines. We'd have to do a little bit more fact checking on that, but kind of just sharing my thoughts on whether or not it should be allowed or legal is yes, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great business opportunity. If someone's out there that's willing to pay for your Instagram profile that you've amassed a big following for, especially if it's a heavily engaged audience and the previous person owning the account has found a way to monetize it, that's no different than me having like a physical business and then selling it to you, because it is just a digital business. Like I'm handing the keys to you to run this profile or this account. For example, what if it was like a comedian account or like GIFs or memes, and like you're able to then make those GIFs or memes on t-shirts and sell merch? Like that is the business itself.
Right.
There's nothing in my mind that says that I can't go transfer that to you if you're willing to pay me X number of dollars.
Well, and I think like, again, there's like a few nuances to that, but like generally speaking, it is just a bit, like you said, it's just a business transaction. Like, I can't argue with that. Like I was going to try to come up with some like clever way to kind of like combat that, but my opinion is pretty in line with that.
Like we're both logical people. Like logic in that seems fine.
Yeah. The only irritation I would have as a user is when it's done and then I'm fed a bunch of bullshit that, I was following this account because let's say I like this account because it's they have really good recipes, and then they've got 500,000 followers and Blackstone buys them. Shout out Blackstone. Blackstone purchases this account, and then all of a sudden, now instead of being able to see recipes that are oven recipes versus quick hitter recipes versus cold recipes, now cold meals, now you've got only stuff you can cook on the Blackstone, which personally I would love because I love using it. But that would be irritating to me as a user. That doesn't necessarily make it wrong.
Right.
It just makes it different. And I think one of the things we should do, Hayden, as we are learning what Instagram has to offer and we're talking about business, I'm going to foreshadow an episode down the line. I don't think we should do it yet. But I think we should talk about the business tools that Instagram offers.
For sure.
The ad tools, the shops, all of that stuff that we're just now getting into. I know, obviously, I'm foreshadowing an episode down the line because we're still learning. As well as Shopify, I think we should do some use cases on Shopify as we get, that for our listeners, that's the platform we use. It's got a lot of tools and it's a lot to learn, but I think we should get into that at some point.
Yeah, I would love to, and I think we're just not well versed.
We're not experts yet.
Yeah, and I won't even use the word experts. Like we're probably never going to be experts, or at least I'll speak for myself. I don't want to be seen as an expert. I want to be someone that is knowledgeable, but I don't want to be an expert because in my mind, an expert thinks they know it all, and I'll never know it all.
Yeah,
I always kind of disagree with people saying, "Oh, I'm an expert." I mean,
right.
Sure, there are situations where I agree with that. But anyhow, piggybacking onto one of your other comments about how it could be annoying if, another person took over a social media account, just trying to draw another real life example. Like I hear that, I think that's totally valid. And that's where, the end consumers kind of dictate the supply and demand of your product. Mm-hmm. And my mind when hearing you describe that goes to like Apple. And Steve Jobs was an exceptional product leader. Mm-hmm. That's debatable to some. But anyhow, he made these fascinating products for Apple. Then, he has these health problems and he ends up passing away. The company then ends up being run by Tim Cook. Mm-hmm. I think that's his name. There are people arguing that ever since he's taken over, the innovation has basically died. Like that's an example of kind of what you're highlighting from a digital standpoint of, hey, Hayden was running this social media account, or you were using a food example of it had 500,000 followers and they were posting these types of recipes, and now someone else bought it and now they're shifting their content or what they want to push out there. That's the same example.
It is, but it's also like, again, it's their prerogative. Like,
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. Like, Tim Cook took over, and it's debatable, whether Apple. And again, you're just hitting some ringers here, because we should definitely dive into that. Whether we think Apple is where they're headed, we should dissect that a little bit more. But generally speaking, yeah, I think that's just the name of the game. That's the ebbs and flows of business and life. Some things are going to change for the better when they're introduced, like let's say a person, you introduce a friend to another friend, and maybe you see improvements with your buddy because he, now he's exposed to this person who's very fit or very organized, and now you start seeing your friend get more organized. You're like, that's great. But let's say that you introduce them, and now you see your both your friends or one of your friends start being more lethargic and eating out, and you're like, okay, those are negative impacts. Well, same thing with business, right? A business transaction takes place, and either the brand's going to grow and be impacted positively, and again, that's all debatable based off of your opinion, but they might go one or two directions. It's obviously going to change. It just depends on how it's going to change. I think it's always funny that you hear about companies, and this is always like an announcement too. Whenever you hear a company go, we're acquiring so-and-so, and we're going to leave them how they are. We're not going to change their brand. Well, of course they're going to freaking change. Like, they're not their own entity anymore. They might not change initially. They might be little things that change, but in that circumstance, they're going to change. So it's just a matter of, like, does it change in a positive light for you, or does it change in a negative light?
Yeah, I like how you described all that. I think one thing that I'd add on to that, or just another thought, is when a company takes over a smaller company or another company, like, I wonder, how is that going to impact the culture? If I don't think the culture is going to impact that much, then I think the company is going to continue to do well into the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of that is just intuition or gut, and kind of assessing, okay, this company just made this acquisition, who took over it, like, what are they actually stating to people with their PR? And as you said, of course, a lot of times they're going to be like, oh, nothing's really going to change, but like, you want to try to get your ear in the door with trying to understand, okay, this employee's saying that the culture is completely going to be shifting, or no, things actually are going well. Like, that's, to me, if you can get into that level of detail and understand what's going on the front lines with someone that works with the company, and there are people that have those jobs, or they have those connections, and they find a way to know this information, and they say that, yeah, the culture really isn't changing too much or deteriorating. Like, to me, that is a green light for future continued success versus, oh, this company came in, they claimed that there wasn't going to be that much of an impact, everyone's jobs were safe, and then everything changed. The culture, people are upset because they're expected to work, later hours now because they're trying to appease more investors, things like that. I mean, it can turn into a whole ugly mess. So just wanted to sprinkle in, look for whether or not you can understand if the culture is going to kind of stay relatively the same, or if it's going to drastically change. And there's times where it could drastically change for the better too. So not to exclude that, but I think more times than not, when a company comes in and takes over, they make the culture go to shit.
Well, I'm gonna segue that bubble of information you gave. I'm gonna segue that into our next topic that we were discussing earlier, but because I think this is a nice kind of gathering of the two.
We didn't answer the other question.
What was
hold that thought. Well, you were asking about all the spam out there, because we get spam on our accounts.
Yeah.
But hold that thought, because we're definitely getting into it.
I wanted to segue. Okay, I know
that was a perfect segue, but we need to go back to one of the other questions.
I'm locking it in.
Your question was multifaceted.
Yeah.
So yes, you and I have seen the amount of spam just increase over the past few weeks, really just based on the sheer amount of engagement that we're starting to get with Unscripted. And thank you to our listeners out there, whether you're new or day one folks. But we're seeing more and more of these spam accounts like our content. And it's kind of, I would say, maybe a little bit frustrating, but it's just annoying to see that these accounts can like and engage with our stuff. And it's like, there is so much advanced technology out there that this should be like literally a no-brainer or a top feature for these companies like Instagram to just kill these dummy accounts.
Right.
Like, it can't be that hard to like write some type of algorithm that understands, okay, this is a fake account, or, you know, someone's creating this account and it doesn't really have this many users and they're doing it for malicious intent. Like, the amount of on my personal page with me trying to push some fitness and health stuff, I get all of these like promiscuous accounts.
Yeah, they're weird.
It's bogus. Yeah.
Well, and again, I think the business side of that, like the irritation I have with it is two things. One, like I don't really give a shit personally, like about my personal stuff. Like I want, you know, I share that stuff because I'm proud of it. I love my family. I love my daughters. You know, and I think it's cool. I think it's worth sharing. I think it's people will get something out of it. But I'm not like, oh, I need more engagement on this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, my numbers were low. But then you go to the business side of it, like, and I'm going to get very critical about it. Like, you're looking at like, okay, Unscripted Exchanges is a business entity. How do we like, it's a business account. And I think Instagram, I'm going to throw something out there. I think they're definitely like ad tools and stuff. And there's definitely ways to like make yourself a business account, but I think they've got to have some different stipulations, so some different metrics and analytics and that sort of thing, so that people that are starting a business or using that as a business tool can understand like their actual traction, their actual engagement, and like how to monetize that, but also reach to the right audience. I don't think there's enough there. So Instagram, call out on that. I got a few ideas for you. You guys can go ahead and reach out, but I think I do not believe there is enough put into that aspect of it, because again, you're getting like dummy accounts. Like, you're going, okay, great, this video got 400 views, this one got 5,000. The algorithm just kind of, you know, decided to change overnight. And how do I know which one was actually engaging? Because this one might have 17 likes, but they're all people I know. This one might have 500. But I'm like, okay, do I have to go through all 500 to decide like, oh, this is worth it? And the problem is, those vanity metrics then influence when you're approaching people or brands or trying to grow outside of that. You can't really use those vanity metrics. Like, how do you go, okay, our engagement is this, when you know that, you know, maybe you do or don't know that half of them might be spam. Like, how do you actually get granular with that?
Yeah, fantastic question. I don't think there's an easy way to answer that.
We'd be billionaires if that was an easy way to answer that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I could probably try to dissect that coming from an analytics background, but I'm not going to bore anyone listening to this right now. But a couple of things I want to call out with what you mentioned there. One, if you are starting an Instagram account, there are ways that you can turn your profile into more of a business profile, and that gives you more insights into quote unquote your engagement, which Cole and I have been hinting at might not be entirely accurate. But again, you can get a little bit more metrics or analytics there if you change the setting to a business profile. We have that obviously set up for our unscripted exchanges account. And I've also done that for my personal account. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight, hearing you state, and it all goes back to like what each person's personal intentions are. Like, you previously, I think your Instagram, like your personal Instagram account was more so highlighting you and your family, which is awesome. And you can do whatever the hell you want to do. But I think I've started to see that shift, and you're trying to make it more of a business. Like, there's more strategy in what you're posting more times than not.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome, because like we're putting on that business cap and trying to figure out how can we market ourselves and promote Unscripted, or how can we promote, you know, our business ventures that we're trying to start beyond just Unscripted, versus, oh, I want to go flex and show my kids or what I did this weekend. And nothing's wrong with that either. I know we've talked about this, but again, there's always some type of strategy that you can go forward with, and like understanding what is your intention that you want to use your social media platform for. Again, maybe it is just to do some personal flexing of, hey, this is what I'm doing. If that's the life that you want to live, so be it. Nothing's wrong with that. But if you're trying to like grow a business, like there is more strategy in terms of what you should be posting, how often you should be posting. Like, I know there's people out there, some of my closest friends probably like, why are you posting some of this stuff? And there's definitely a reason why I'm posting some of this stuff. And like, I have no problem posting the stuff that I'm posting, and it's me trying to drive a certain brand or an image. So it just goes back to, what are you trying to use social media for?
Well said. Well said. Can I segue now? Because I'm already on the next topic.
No. Yeah.
I'm segueing
We can.
because I think this is a pretty exciting conversation we're about to have. One of the things that has become more, and it's always been popular, and you've always had companies or people acquiring other companies, but I feel like generally speaking, we all have this notion that being an entrepreneur or starting a business, you have to start it from scratch. You always hear the like, I started this from my garage, right? Like that's like any story that's on the news or like written about. It's always like, I started this from my garage, or like I was in my college dorm, or I was working. A lot of companies do start that way, but there's another way to get into entrepreneurship and to grow a business and to become a business owner. There's actually several ways. We're going to get into one, but you've got franchising, you've got those kind of different avenues. The one that we wanted to focus on today, which I think is super interesting, and I've got some real life experience with this lately. Maybe not the ownership part, but understanding that if you're going out and you're saying, "Hey, I want to start a business, or I want to spend this money and invest on something." A big trend lately has been buying businesses and then building them. Buying businesses that are well established, whether it's in the manufacturing industry, whether it's in the medical industry, whether it's in payroll or logistics, whether it's any of those. It's buying a company that's already got a foundation, that's got team members, that has, let's say, steady revenue, and then building it from there. And I think there are so many opportunities out there to do that a lot of people just miss the boat entirely, because they're like, oh, either I'm going to start my own out of my garage, or with my own, very beginning, nuts and bolts, put it all together. And people miss the boat of like, you can go find companies that are already established, that already have, let's say, a solid customer base, and might have the tools and machinery or whatever it is, and you can buy them and then grow them. And you're in my opinion, you're mountains ahead of you're waves ahead of people that have to start and do everything by themselves in certain situations.
Yeah, that's the key point right there. What I'm hearing you say is, instead of starting from the ground floor, there are other alternatives out there where you can invest or buy a company that's looking to sell, that's been established for X number of years. You can get, the financials in terms of what their net operating profit has been, things like that, to help you make that purchase decision if you're trying to acquire that company. And that might be a better path forward, because it probably does help mitigate the amount of risk that you're willing to take on versus starting something from scratch. So I think that's a great call out and recommendation for anyone that's interested in being an entrepreneur, that is evaluating, okay, do I have to start from the ground floor? Or even if I am starting from the ground floor, how am I going to raise capital for this? Versus it might be a little bit easier to raise capital for an established business that's been out there for X number of years, and it's already, been proven. It's got this success track or record, and you're able to go to a bank or a private lender that's able to give you money versus, I've got this proof of concept. It's probably a little bit easier to get funded for something.
Not 10 times easier, a million times easier, right? I mean, I'm going to use my company I work for now as an example, because that's a very good example. So,
are you allowed to discuss this, by the way? I want to make sure that.
Yeah, I'm not going to use like a whole lot of, but I mean, I tell everybody the story anyways.
Okay.
The company I work for, I started about 2.5 years ago, and we have an amazing facilities, amazing customers, and the goal was come in here and grow the business, right? Come in here. We've got the bones, we've got the team, we've got the resources. All we need is somebody to come in and help us grow it, help us get outside of just our current customer base, expand our offerings. And we've done that. Like over the past 3 years, we've added 30 plus customers. We've expanded our service offering. And the beautiful part about this is, like, if I were to go back and look at it, if I were looking at it from I'm going to buy this business standpoint, like, this would have been a home run for me. If I would have gone in, and I don't think I could have afforded our bit. I couldn't have been able to buy it. But I'm saying maybe 5 years from now, 6 years from now, looking at businesses like that already have let's say some solid customers that have the facilities, that have a team in place. Think about how much you don't have to do. You've got a good team. Now, you maybe some of the team are duds, right? Maybe you have to replace them. But if you can go into a team and say, okay, they already have somebody doing accounting, they already have somebody doing running operations, they have somebody that's managing customer service. All I got to come in here and do is take these tools, help sharpen them, and then expand upon them, right? Instead of saying I have to create this tool and do all this stuff a CEO does this when they start a business. I have to recruit. I have to build up processes. I have to do this and that. You go, okay, I've got all this stuff. I've got the groundwork. I've got a foundation. Now all I got to do is build it up, right? Now I got to put more bricks on it. I got to maybe do some yard work, man. I got to do some landscaping. Maybe I put some trees up. But you have, and I love that idea. And I think that's a thing that there's a lot of people that do this. But I mean, to your point, getting into like the financial aspect of it, like going and let's say you want to scale the business. So you go in and say, okay, this business is doing $2.5 million a year. They've got a track record of doing anywhere from 2.3 to 2.7 over the past 5 years. Let's say their net income is $300,000. They've got $500,000 in assets, right? You can say, okay, we know this, right? Here's what we've got. Then you go, okay, how many customers do they have? 3. All right, I'm starting these out there. 3 customers. All right, 3 customers doing $2.5 million over the past 5 years. So what happens if I add a 4th customer, and a 5th customer, and a 6th customer? And you go, okay, we can take this from 2.5 to 5 and 5 to 10. Is there enough industry? And then you can start studying the industry. Okay, where's the potential in this industry? What are the trends? Is this going up or going down? And then you go, okay, great. So I can buy this business and put it on a 5-year plan. And if I wanted to sell it in 5 years, I could turn this $2.5 million business into a $10 million business way faster than starting from zero with 0 customers. Because when you start from zero with 0 customers, you don't have any proof that you know what you're doing, right? You got to build proof. You have to have one customer say yes. Then you have to point to them. So now we've got all this material, we've got all this experience and know-how. How do I leverage that to give it to other customers? And that to me is super exciting. Like scaling businesses, to me, that's where I want to be at. Like that's the game that's fun. Like, okay, we've got something. Now how do we make it bigger? How do we make more money? Like it's all fun, but that aspect of it gets me jazzed up. And I think there's a lot of art to that, right? But I think my overall feeling of that is there's a lot of opportunities like that out there. And, my ears are open and my eyes are open. Like, how do we, where can we help businesses do that? I'm looking for companies that want somebody to come, for us to come in and say, hey, here's where you're at now. Let's take you to this level, right? Here's where I've done that in the past, and here's where I can help you do that.
You're giving away all of our secrets.
Dude, I mean,
I'm just playing.
Scaling business to me is, it's all challenging.
It's what drives you. It's what motivates you.
Yeah, it's fun. Dude, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to take something and make it bigger.
You do sound like Alex and Layla Hormozy, though.
Really?
They like to acquire businesses and help them scale. That's what acquisitions.com is.
I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to me.
Alex, Layla, we could use some additional assistance ourselves, but we really like your content.
No, I mean, to me, that's fun and that's engaging and that's business at its finest. Like you take something and then you expand upon it, make it bigger, then resell it. I mean, that's
a couple of questions for you. Hearing you describe some of that stuff, do you think that, or what do you think is one of the initial or first success metrics to a company? I'll leave it at that.
What do you mean? If I'm looking at a company to buy, or like a company to like, what do you mean?
Yeah, good question. So what's in response? I guess, and I'm kind of then gonna just curate this to get the answer that I want. I guess I'll just make the statement versus asking you the question. It's probably important to look at the track record of how many customers, which you were highlighting in your example, that this business has if you're looking to acquire them and look at future growth opportunities. I mean, it's not that black and white. So you said you got to look at the industry. Where is it going to be in 5 years from now? But if they have a few customers, like maybe that's a good buy. Maybe it's not a good buy. It just depends. I mean, I'm using your words literally when you said that there was only like 3 customers for this made up fictitious business.
Yeah.
That may or may not be the right move. But what I'm also highlighting is that's also a good thing that they have paying reoccurring customers. Like that is the green flag in my mind that, hey, if you have repeat customers that are coming back, that's a good sign versus, oh no, we're losing customers, or no, we don't really have customers. And I guess that wouldn't really be an established business. It would be that proof of concept. And that's what investors are looking for is like, hey, do you have paying customers? Like that is the number one thing that you should be trying to get is paying customers.
You need paying customers. So I think there's a few ways I would address that because I agree with exactly what you're saying. The things I would look at is success metrics or like room to dive deeper. Like like on the surface level, the first thing I say is, okay, how many customers do you have? Great. What's the industry look like? Yep. Fantastic. And how long have you had those customers? What's your revenue? There's basically like I want to know mostly about the customers. That's really from a sales background and from like a business. A core business is based around how much they're selling. A business does not exist without money coming in. So at the end of it, all I really give a shit about really is that the first thing, the most important thing is that this business has customers. Those customers have been with them for an extended amount of time and they're paying their bills and they're coming back for more, right? There's business that's what I care about, whether it's 3, 5, 15, 20. There's that. That's what I would look at. Number one, say, okay, they're there. Then I'd say, okay, they've got these customers. The next question I'd ask, again, it's all sales related, is here's the customers. Is there room to grow those accounts? Can we get more business out of them? Okay, so we can look at this. Okay, we know this about them because we've been working with them long enough, and we can grow that account. So I'm going, all right. If I go into this business and I didn't add one more customer, I could still make it a $3 million business by tapping just into these accounts. Great. So let's say, perfect scenario. Now you're doing $3 million with 3 customers. So what happens when I add a 4th one? Well, what's the market potential? How long does that take? Then I start diving into like, how long is the customer acquisition process? What are the typical margins in this industry? Is it 45, 50%? Are you getting 80%? How many of these companies are coming back for more business? Like, how do you scale that? Again, it's all customer based. So that's all I would really focus on is the metrics of like, what are they doing with their current customers? How are they supporting them? Can you grow those accounts? And then what is it going to take to add new customers? And if there's a pathway to that, right? And let's use the manufacturing industry as an example, because I'm in it. If there's a pathway for me to go from these customers and use them to leverage new customers while still growing those accounts, if there's a pathway to that, then that's a home run to me. Then it's just a matter of like, how do you manage your money? How do you manage your personnel? And how do you manage that as you're growing, right? And that's when you say, okay, let's say I want to go from $2.5 million to $5 million, but I know I'm going to have to carry some weight. I'm going to have to carry, these are my target customers, and I'm going to have to carry some overhead to get to that point. That's when you can go, I'll dive into my own pockets, or I'll go to a bank and say, hey, here's what I'm doing with 3 customers. Here's what I could do with these ones. Here's the potential. Here's how much money I'll need. And you've got a much better case because you have proof that there's real people paying you real money and the industry is not going anywhere. So I would focus, again, I know I elaborated a lot, but my primary focus is the customer base they have. What are they able to do with that customer base? And then what is it going to take to acquire new customers? That's the sole thing I look at. And if you've got that, then you can put the rest of the pieces around it.
What I'm hearing you say when you talk about acquiring new customers, I'm really going to oversimplify this, and I think you'll like this, maybe not, is how can I foster relationships with not only my current customers, but potential new customers? What is it going to take to acquire these new customers? And I think, keyword think, not I know, many companies end up spending too much on acquiring new customers. I mean, there's a fine line between how much you need to spend or how much you need to quote unquote invest to bring in new customers. And unfortunately, it's definitely very situational depending on the business, the industry, et cetera, et cetera. But just recognize, how much am I willing to spend to bring in a new customer? And first off, you need to know what that is so you can then recognize, okay, wait, I'm spending this much on average to bring in a new customer. We need to go back and reassess our strategy for acquiring new customers. So
Yeah, and I think you're spot on, and it just depends on the industry and what you're doing too, and the type of business. But like cost to acquisition, cost to acquire, if that's if that's here, but you can fill in some of that gap by growing your current customer base, you can offset some of that.
right, love it. A lot of
That
fire
stuff
points.
that stuff gets me excited, and I think any small business that wants to grow, if they're in the right industry, they have the potential to grow. You just got to finesse it. You got to have the right sales plan, and you've got to be willing to go out and be flexible to get new accounts. And it's sales driven, man. It's how do you position yourself to be able to offer your services and products to other clients, and then once you get them in, how do you support them and keep them spending money?
I got another off the dome question for you.
Hit me.
So I saw this recently, and it was, I'm trying to recall exactly how it was stated. I'll just paraphrase. It was, there are two careers or professions that are seen as the least trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
The top one was politicians.
Yeah.
We don't need to debate that. The second one was sales.
Yeah.
What would you say about someone saying that salespeople aren't very easy to trust, or they're not trustworthy people? What would your response be to that question?
A lot of salespeople aren't trustworthy, but a lot of accountants aren't trustworthy. A lot of lawyers, a lot of product managers, a lot of. My point is like what I would say is, you can't judge a whole professional or everybody based off one bad experience you had. And sales gets a lot of bad rap because you're customer facing and you're interacting. And I'll tell you, it's tough to be, sales is the number one area where you have to be the most forthright and have the most integrity. And I think salespeople that give bad taste in their mouth, it's because I'm going to tell you what you want to hear because I'm too nervous to tell you the truth. And that's where salespeople get a bad rap and get that we're untrustworthy.
And there's probably a small minority that end up ruining it for the
there totally
broader population.
And it's you've also got really pushy and pressure salespeople, and you've got all different types of people. But again, I think salespeople just get a bad rap because their job literally is to go get someone to say yes to buy something so the business runs. And a lot of salespeople get desperate and do things, the wrong way. I've learned through my experience that the best way to win a customer's heart is just to be like brutally honest, tell them where you're at, meet them where they're at, and work through that together. When something goes wrong, you tell them something went wrong, you apologize, you move on with life. But, that's just my 2 cents. I have a dream I've trained some salespeople, and I enjoy that because I enjoy instilling in them like, hey, here's what really matters. And the first time you get caught with a lie is the last time you'll ever be able to work with a customer like that. And word spreads, and it's just not a good look. So my answer would be like, sales is just so forward facing. Like it's the one position that relationships start with. And so I think it gets a lot of the spotlight, and it also dictates everything else down the line. So if a salesperson says something wrong or miscommunicates, and then it gets passed on to customer service because they've signed up for a contract, and customer service says, oh, that's not the case, then all of a sudden the salesperson is a piece of shit. But maybe the salesperson, wasn't educated, which is on them. But it's not just so like black and white as salespeople are so it's just they're the first person that any client talks to 9 times out of 10 is a salesperson. And so that's where the tone can be set good or great or terrible. And it's on salespeople to be educated. Like I cannot stand dealing with a salesperson that feeds me bullshit. It's like you're a professional. Like you're here as a person to consult with me and help set me up for success. But when you don't know or you rattle me off some BS, like I don't think you're sleazy. I think you're an idiot. That's my opinion. Salespeople that lie or misspeak, and do it intentionally or unintentionally because they don't know the answer, like you're just being a dumbass. Like you need to go do your homework and become a professional. I mean, that's my opinion.
I think I really enjoyed your answer. I appreciate how detailed you got there too, and I thought you would like the question.
It was a good question.
It was something that I saw recently, and I'm like, wow. I mean, I kind of resonate with. I would agree with that to some degree. When we talk sales professionals, my mind goes directly to car salesmen, and there are some people that fit that stereotype. But I love the way that you described your answer. And I think if someone asks me, I'll slightly reframe the question. Like, why would I trust Hayden Huber? Like,
right.
why would I trust working with you? Or why would I trust working with Cole Hazenfield? And my answer would be, and you kind of hit at it, just not explicitly as this, is we'll go talk to the people that I've built relationships with. Like, that is literally it.
Yeah, here's my referrals. Call them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Literally, that's like... And that's where you get really good, is when you can do that. You say, you know what? I get it. Like, you're a little hesitant. Here's 5 phone numbers you can call.
Yeah.
You can talk to them about how to deal with me.
Yeah. And
you're spot on. I mean, having that as a base to fall back on is astronomically huge. And I think too, I think what makes it challenging, and this is also again the nature of sales, Hayden, is that sales is there. Like most salespeople, I put asterisk, most, if they're in the organization smart, there's an aspect of commission or bonuses as part of that. And the problem is when you're really not good and you're desperate, you start lying to hit your bonuses or hit your commission. And so I think there's a balancing act for organizations. The days of paying, salespeople shit, that comes back to bite you in the ass. You got to have a balance between paying them enough to make sure they're not super desperate so they don't pressure or lie to their customers, and and not paying them so much that they don't give a shit about making commission. Like there's a balancing act. Like you got to find that sweet spot depending on what your industry you're in and what you're selling. So the salesperson is hungry enough to go after it and get it because they want the commission. You want them to want that. You want them to want to make more money. That is sales. Like you got to be hungry. Like people forget that. Like that, I tell my customers, I make really good money, and I also make commission. Like, but I'm not going to press you to make a decision. Like I just want you to know that part of my compensation is that. Let's be upfront about it. A lot of salespeople are, and you've got to have that balance of like you pay them enough so they're not total desperate jerk-offs, but you don't pay them so much that they're not
motivated enough to continue growing.
And that's the balancing. So a lot of times when you meet these really sleazy salespeople that are lying and stuff, it's because like all they're concerned about is making that sale because they have to go feed their family. And it sounds really, really dramatic, but it's true. Like there is an aspect of that.
And who's to blame that quote unquote jerky salesperson that's doing that to feed their family?
Because their manager's not paying them $15 an hour, but they've got 3 kids and they didn't sell anything last month, so now they got to make it up. Like, what are they gonna do?
So there's 2 things that I'm gonna act like I know. One, that goes back to the manager or boss that can help educate that person and help them become better sales professionals potentially, or as you were hitting on, pay them more. Because I think what I'm hearing you say is if you underpay a sales professional, they're going to start to cut corners or get desperate, and that's going to end up becoming more detrimental or more expensive to your business. So it's like you pay for what you get, as they say.
Dude, you underpay, or you better have like a product that sells really quick, and you got a really killer comp plan if you're paying them low. It better be like boom, 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 boom. I would say another thing too, and then we can wrap up this this portion of it. I would say like another thing that's super interesting about sales in general is the fact that I lost my train of thought. Totally lost my train of thought.
Dude, you've been working so hard over there. All the sales that you're making. You sound like me, man. I'm rubbing off on you way too much.
I had a really good one though. I had a really good one. It's okay.
You know what that means? It's because I was going off saying what I wanted to say, and you were already trying to form your next thought.
And then I started
you
listening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That happens to me.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. No, I mean, I think in general, again, yeah, to wrap that up, Hayden, sales gets a good bad rap, and honestly, it's just like it's a profession, and it's a way. Oh, I got it. This is the last thing I was like, I found it. I got it back. Got it back. I hate the term buyers are liars. You ever heard that? If you're in sales, you've heard it.
Buyers are liars.
Buyers are liars, meaning this is what a lot of salespeople are taught, and that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Is that your prospect's lying, or the first no is just the beginning of the sale. Shut up. Like, sometimes the first no is legitimately no. And if you're really good and you've had somebody train you really well, like, you're not going to get a whole lot of no's. But if you do get a no, like, it's a no. It's a no. Like, sometimes a no is just a no. And a lot of people are like, you watch all these people on Instagram and, fucking all this social media going, the sales starts when you hear a no. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, at all. If you're good at what you do, you don't even hear the word no. The word no never comes out of their mouth. The words that come out are like, well, I don't know if we're in a position right now to do that. Or, well, we're going to have to take a look at this. Do you think you can send this over? Like, and then you just work through that. But if you get a hard no, man, in my opinion, you've done something wrong to get a really hard no, or they're unqualified and they're just not going to buy anyways. Like somebody says no to me, I'm good enough. Like, I don't fucking care. Sure. Peace. Move on with life. No is no. Like, there's enough fish in the sea. FAP, find another prospect. That's how I look at it.
Dropping acronyms left and right. So you're describing that from the perspective of a salesperson, where the buyer could potentially be not telling the full story.
Dude, the buyer's like, you're going through the motions, and then they say like, well, I'm not going to buy it. Okay, thanks.
No, it's interesting to hear that context or that point of view, because I'm on the flip side from my end, because when I go in and I go back to car sales, when someone tells me this is the price, and even not even cars, the way my brain is wired, I immediately slash that number in half. How can I get that number cut in half? Like, I will literally be upset if I'm spending higher than that half number that magically comes into my mind. Now, every now and then I get over it potentially, but like for cars in particular, like, I have a number in mind and I will not budge.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. The problem is
but what I'm getting at from my perspective is, are salespeople lying to me on their first, here's our best offer? Is it really their best offer? In my mind, just let me finish this out. It's an opinion. I think if I'm trying to win over a prospective client, I am going to go a little bit short, knowing, statistically speaking, the person trying to buy the product knows that they think they can get a better deal. So I'm going to not give them the best deal right away, because I'm probably working with someone that operates or has that philosophy. So using it in the context of selling a car, yeah, I'll give them an offer for $30,000 when they think that, oh no, can you do it for $27,000? When I knew all along that I could do it for $27,000. I would approach it that way in that context, or even from a business standpoint with bringing on a new employee, I would be like, here's your compensation package, knowing that I actually can go up about 5 to 10%, because I'm expecting them to come back and hit me with a different number. And I feel more appreciated when people do that versus, oh yeah, I'll just accept exactly what they said. Like, those people are the people that you can just walk all over because they just accept what, they believe the first time around. That's my philosophy.
But I would say this, like, to that point, to your car buying situation specifically, I also think people give companies and stuff too much credit for like the amount of thought that goes into that. Like, I'll have customers come to me and say, I'll say, hey, it's, $43,000. And they go, man, I really, is that the best you can do? I need to do it more. I really need to be around 40. And I'm like, I don't know. Let me go look. Like, it's at the time it was the best I had.
Yeah.
But now let me go look at what my margins are if I do it for 40.
Yeah.
So for a car buying process, to them, that's the best they've got. Then you say, okay, no, I need it to be down more. okay, let me go look at it. Like, that's not lying. That's legitimately like,
what you're describing is marketing. We're both on the same page. I think I'm just saying that to meet people, whether you're the buyer or the seller, like understand that you're trying to go higher or lower depending on what side of the coin that you're on, and start with knowing that you can move up or
sometimes
down.
you don't know though. But I'm saying, like, no, what I'm getting at is sometimes you legitimately don't know if you've got room. Like, I get a huge.
So then let me tell you this. Are you lying? You said you're not lying. Why would you give a number then? I would say, I'm not sure about that number. Let me go back and check with you.
You say, hey, it's 43,000. That's my sales price, right? And you, so I said to you, Hayden, it's 43 grand. You say, man, I really wish I could be closer to 40. That's what I'm willing to spend. Then I go, well, let me see if I can make that work.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then I go back, and I'm saying what I'm saying is, people give a lot of times, they think salespeople are being sleazy, or you think, or I'm trying to negotiate. And 9 times out of 10, why the fuck would I go spend my time to get you a $40,000 price if you'll pay $43,000, right? If it's worth $43,000 and I'm making money and you're happy, I'm going to sell it for $43,000. Now, if you say I need to do it for 40, I don't want to lose the sale over 3,000. But if 40 doesn't work for me, I might come back and say, you know what, my margins are at 40%. I can't drop below that. I'll do it for 41.5. Otherwise, I'm going to have to walk. Like, that's the way I look at it. But I'm not going to go spend that time to give you my bottom dollar price until you ask for it. That's not marketing. That's business. I'm not going to give you the bottom dollar price. I'm not even going to look at that. Like, what's the least amount I'll do this work for, and that's what I'll sell it for? That's you might as well just close up shop now. I'm not going to give every deal at the lowest possible price. I'm going to give you what I think is a valuable price that I think it's worth. And if you say, hey, can you go lower? Then yeah, I'll check on it. But if I can't go lower, sometimes customers say that to me, and I know that I've already come in low, right? Because it's a certain type of project, and I've already skimped on it because I'm doing them a favor, and I'll say, no, like, sorry, I cannot do that. I cannot budge a muscle. And that's also belief in your product and your service, and that's what you got to have in sales. Like, sometimes you just got to be like, no, sorry, like, I won't negotiate this. I gave you what I think it's worth. Whether you think it's worth of that, it's up to you, but that's what I think it's worth.
I mean, what you're describing is the art of sales and negotiation too.
Yeah.
I love this conversation because you have more of the context coming from the sales side, and I'm more so on the flip side of being the buyer.
Yeah.
But using your same logic, and then we're going to wrap this up, like, why would I be willing to pay $43,000 using your example when I know that, hey, I'm going to try to see if I can get this for lower than that, knowing that I could easily pay $43,000. See, it's the same logic that you're using from your side. So that's where both parties are trying to tiptoe around and try to figure out where they can meet.
Then you have to meet.
That's the word.
The best salespeople, the best professionals, and really, like, you could be a salesperson in any aspect. The best ones are going with absolute belief that they're giving you the best price because they believe that, and say, well, let me see what I can do.
I won't ever change that.
No. But I'm saying like there's that dance is like, it's a good dance. Like, that's what the dance needs to be. That there has to be one person that's going, can you give me something better? Can you do something? Yeah. Let me look at it. And there's that salesperson's job is to go, can I make this work? Can I meet them there, still make money, and both parties are happy? If you can, then yeah, you should.
Right.
You know, but I don't play the game of, like, you know, don't budge on the price. Like, if I could budge on the price and still make money, and still make what I need to make on it, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like,
right.
But if I have to budge to the point where it's like I'm scraping by, like, no, I won't do
There's
it.
there's so many factors when it comes to that, whether you're the buyer or the seller, for sure. Well, hey, let's wrap this up. Great conversations, crushing it per usual. It's good to have you back in the studio.
Dude, felt good, man.
I didn't think you were ever coming back. You stormed out of here on episode, what was it, like 55? You're like, I ain't never coming back to Unscripted Exchanges headquarters. I'm done.
Dude, I left the corporate off, packed my shit up.
You know, I told people on the last episode that you got fired.
No, Jimmy got fired. He's back now. He had a spur of the moment.
The amount of times Jimmy's been fired and rehired is got to be a Guinness World
Astronomical.
Record. Yeah. It's like once a week. Well, guys, girls, ladies, folks,
everybody,
them, he, she,
his, her.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate you all for tuning in. We got some promotions coming up soon. Wanted to announce that before I forgot that. Check out the website though. We're selling stuff, getting some sales. Take a look. If you got questions, reach out to us via email. We'll continue to adapt, learn, evolve, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll talk to you next time. God bless.
Thanks, guys.